Here are the top stories for today, May 28, 2021. The government simplifies the list of workers included in the A4 vaccination priority group. OFWs who are living within 4 months after their vaccination and their families are also moving up to the A1 inoculation list. Not lagging behind, the Philippines is among 4 countries cited by a report of the International Budget Partnership as having an adequate level of accountability in its early response to the pandemic. No halt to key projects amid COVID-19. The Malolos-Valenzuela route of the Philippine National Railways is set to open in December. And a hope of a new life begins. We listen to the stories of the beneficiaries of the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program, which seeks to provide more opportunities for Filipinos in the countryside. Good day, I'm Marita Muahe. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. We begin with updates on the country's vaccination priority list. The government has simplified the list of workers included in the A4 vaccination priority sector. In a Laging Handa briefing earlier today, a presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said eligible for inoculation under the A4 list are private sector workers required to be physically present in the workplace outside of their homes. Also included are government employees, including those in state-owned and controlled corporation and local government units, and informal sector workers and self-employed individuals required to work out of their homes, and those working in private households. The vaccine deployment for A4 group shall be initially focused in the NCR Plus and in 4 other areas. Meanwhile, outbound OFWs who will be deployed within the next 4 months from their intended date of vaccination shall be recategorized to the A1 group. Their immediate family members will also be included in the A1 group once vaccine supplies are available. Malacanang raised the possibility that the quarantine classifications in the country might be relaxed in June. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque cited the significant drop in the average COVID-19 daily attack rate, 2-week growth rate, and hospital care utilization rate all throughout the country. The nationwide average daily attack rate declined to 5.42 per 100,000 populations on May 9 to 22 from the previous 9.2 per 100,000 population posted on April 4 to 17. The overall 2-week growth rate also dropped from negative 21% to 11%. The overall hospital care utilization rate also decreased to 43% on May 25 from 68% on April 7 to 16. However, Roque said the implementation of new quarantine status in Metro Manila will be subjected to the recommendation of the local government units. A think tank has praised President Rodrigo Duterte's strong international relations for having helped keep the Philippines afloat during the COVID-19 pandemic. George C., head of the Integrated Development Studies Institute, said the contributions of nations engaged by Duterte before the COVID-19 pandemic are benefiting the country. C. said China has been constantly demonized despite the urgent help it extended to the Philippines, such as the provision of Sinovac vaccines. He urged critics of China in the Philippines to be wary of their words as the country gets support from other nations to compete with the donations and generous deals provided by China. Xi also cited the 2017 siege in Marawi and how China and Russia are helping in the rehabilitation efforts. Earlier, Malacanang described Duterte's independent foreign policy as anchored on a national security policy that balances the welfare and well-being of Filipinos at home and abroad. The Philippines is one of the 4 countries cited by the International Budget Partnership, or IBP, for having an adequate level of accountability in its early response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The IBP only gave the second highest level of accountability to the Philippines, Australia, Norway, and Peru, with no country able to get the substantive level. The report identified 29 countries having some level of accountability in their pandemic response, which include the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, and New Zealand, among others. 55 nations were identified having limited level of accountability, which include China, Malaysia, and Vietnam, while 32 countries had minimal level of accountability. The IBP also cited the Philippines having good practice in maximizing the role of legislatures in COVID-19 response, thus not curtailing their role amid a state of emergency. It also hailed the Philippines for its good practice in decision-making on COVID-19 response by getting inputs from the public. The Department of Justice said there is sufficient basis to enforce President Rodrigo Duterte's order to arrest village captains who will fail to enforce rules on mass gatherings. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara said there are existing administrative and criminal sanctions against public officers who neglect to perform their duties. DOJ Undersecretary Emeline Villar said erring village officials may be charged with dereliction of duty. Villar also referred to Section 6A of the Bayanihan to Hail as One Act, which punishes officials disobeying national government policies in imposing quarantines with up to 2 months in prisons and fines from 10,000 to 1 million pesos. Guevara said the public will also be informed so that the people are fully appraised and may thus act accordingly. Malaysia on Thursday reported another 7,857 COVID-19 cases, its highest jump in daily infections. With the recent addition, the country's health ministry said the total caseload rose to over 541,000. The state of Selangor recorded the most number of new cases at 2,675, followed by Sarawak with 772 and Kelantan with 752 cases. Around 900,000 people have been fully vaccinated in Malaysia so far, with some 1.6 million more having received their first dose. Meanwhile, another 3,180 people in Britain have tested positive for COVID-19, meaning that the number of daily COVID cases reported in the country passed 3,000 for the first time since mid-April. The latest figures brought the total number of cases in Britain to 4.47 million. The country also reported another 9 coronavirus-related deaths, bringing the total to over 127,000. The British government is considering adding islands such as the Canary Islands and Mallorca to the green list of destinations for holidaymakers. Early this month, the British government announced a list of countries from which travelers are not required to quarantine upon return to England. Portugal, Israel, Singapore, Australia, and New Zealand are among 12 countries and regions on the UK's green list of travel destinations from May 17 for people in England. Let's now take a look at the COVID-19 figures worldwide. Still to come, the palace assures its ears are open to the concerns of fishermen over the West Philippine Sea. And a fresh start awaits 61 beneficiaries after returning to Leyte via the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program. Details ahead. This is the PNA Newsroom.
The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
You are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective.
I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work.
Malacanang said it will take into consideration the sentiments of Filipino fishermen amid China's incursions into the disputed West Philippine Sea. This after militant pambansang lakas ng kilusang mamamalakaya ng Pilipinas or Pamalakaya claimed that Filipino fishermen in Zambales lose around 70% of their income due to the heightened presence of Chinese vessels in Panatag or Scarborough Shoal. It said fishermen could not return to Panatag Shoal because they are afraid of being harassed by Chinese ships. The group also hit China's supposed militarization in the waterway. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, however, shrugged off Pamalakaya's statement, citing its agenda as part of the umbrella group of the left-leaning Bagong Alyansang Makabayan. Roque said he would rather listen to other Filipino fishermen who do not belong to Pamalakaya. On May 20, Roque told Filipino fishermen to stay in their traditional fishing grounds in WPS despite China's imposition of a 3-month fishing ban that covers a part of the contested sea. Around 61 beneficiaries of the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa or BP2 program are hopeful for a fresh start. The beneficiaries have nothing but praise for the government as they look forward to a bright future in their hometown. Here is my report. Cedric Ramos, 17 years old with disability, is one of the beneficiaries of the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program of the national government. Together with his mother, Virginia Cruz, and 5 siblings, they will travel to Leyte, courtesy of the BP2 program, hoping to have a fresh start in life. Virginia, a single mother, lost her husband just this March due to aneurysm. She was left all alone to take care and provide for her children aged 7, 9, 11, 13, and 16, and her eldest, Cedric, who has a disability.
Hindi ko pa po alam kung anong kondisyon niya, ba't siya nagkaganyan. Kasi, nung pinanganak ko po siya noong 2004, hindi pa naman po required yung newborn screening para malaman kung magkakaroon nga siya ng sakit. Ang ano lang po noon, pwede ka lumabas ng ospital kahit wala pang newborn screening, hindi parehas ngayon. Kaya siguro hindi ko rin talaga nahalata na lang namin, nalulula siya, tapos yan nga naninigas. Hanggang sa naano namin na mahirap mga bedridden lang talaga, hindi siya pwede umupo.
Just like most of the beneficiaries, Virginia worked as a masseuse in a spa in Quezon City before the COVID-19 pandemic. When COVID-19 hit the country in 2020, she lost her job.
Sobra po, kasi katulad ng masahista na may 6 na bata, kasi kamamatay lang po na tatay nila nung March 5. Dahil sa aneurysm po.
To be able to provide food on the table, Virginia swallowed her pride and lined up for relief goods.
Pinakamasakit yung oras ng kainan, wala kang maihain. Yun po talaga. Na dumating kami sa ganung punto kasi wala akong trabaho.
She said that in those times, she would just turn on the speaker so they can all sing together. When Virginia heard of the BP2 in the news last year, she said that she applied for the program together with her sister. But because of the number of applicants, they only got a call after 4 months, but BP2 was suspended. Despite some hesitations, Virginia said that she grabbed the program as she hopes for a better life for her children.
Meron din pong pangkabuhayan daw. Tutulungan nila kami na kung paano magnegosyo ng baboy, papaano nila kami sa testa. So yun naman po. Kaya nananalig na lang para sa mga bata din.
Just the thought of the amount of money that they will need for the transportation fare if they were not able to avail of the program makes Virginia thankful to the government. She said that she talked to her children and explained to them that life is much simpler in the province and that they might have a fresh start. Not thinking about the rent to pay made them agree to her.
Kaya inisip ko, doon na lang kung makakapagtrabaho ko, doon na lang ako magtatrabaho. May lisensya naman po ko.
Virginia hopes that the government continue to help people like her who is willing to work and does not rely on the government. What is important for her are her children and that she promised them that no matter what happens, they will continue to study as she hopes that one day they get to finish their college education unlike her so they could have a better life. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Muaje. Lawmakers on Thursday approved measures that would raise the discount granted to senior citizens on their monthly electric and water consumption. House Bill 1903, authored by Baguio City Representative Mark Go, proposes to raise the discount granted to senior citizens on their monthly electric and water bills from the present 5% to 10%. Nueva Ecija Representative Estrelita Swansing, author of House Bill 3040, pushed for the amendment of Section 4C of the Republic Act 9994 by applying the 5% discount to the first 150 kilowatt hours of electricity and to the first 50 cubic meters of water, as well as exempting the utility fees from the value-added tax. Committee on Senior Citizens Chair and Senior Citizens Party List Representative Rodolfo Ordañez urged his colleagues to continue giving the country's 10 million elderly relief in basic social services. San Fernando, Pampanga is calling on its senior citizens to avail of COVID-19 vaccines. The Department of Health in Central Visayas has also urged frontliners in the region to get vaccinated. More on this in today's Provincial Roundup from Leyte, Cabagani.
The City Health Office in San Fernando, Pampanga is ramping up efforts to inoculate more than 40,000 senior citizens against COVID-19. About 8,400 seniors who belong to the A2 priority group have already received vaccines from March 25 to May 25. Of this figure, a total of 1,605 are fully vaccinated. The CHO urged the elderly to comply with the pre-registration and registration process to avoid conflict and further delays in the vaccination site. As of May 26, the total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the city is 4,726 with 621 active cases. The Department of Health also urged frontliners in Central Visayas to get inoculated now as other sectors are awaiting their turn to get the jobs. The DOH said as of May 26, there remains 24% or more than 31,000 out of 130 plus eligible healthcare workers in the region who are yet to get their first dose and 43% for the second dose. The agency has also corrected its earlier strategy of finishing inoculation for the medical frontliners or A1 and senior citizens or A2, pointing out the need to start vaccinating the A3 sector comprising persons with comorbidities. In Zamboanga City, Mayor Maria Isabel Climaco Salazar called on residents who are 18 years old and above to register for vaccination online or by visiting the nearest health center. The City Health Office said a total of 40,225 doses of COVID-19 vaccines have been administered as of May 25. Of the total number, nearly 36,000 are first doses while the remaining 4,200 plus are second doses. The Interagency Task Force has committed to increase the allocation of vaccines in view of the growing COVID-19 cases in the city as well as its importance to the economy of the region. Meanwhile, the Basilan Province capital of Isabela City will revert to general community quarantine from modified GCQ for 14 days amid the increasing cases of COVID-19. Mayor City Jalia Turabin Hataman, chair of the COVID-19 task force, said the GCQ will take effect Friday, May 28 until June 10. Hataman said they requested the return to GCQ amid the 104 active cases as of Wednesday. The province already had 14 deaths since the pandemic began early last year. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Leyte Kabagani.
The Malolos-Valenzuela phase of the PNR North-South Commuter Railway is expected to be operational by December this year. Transportation Undersecretary for Railways Timothy John Batan said PNR Clark North 1, which will connect Tutuban, Manila to Malolos, Bulacan, will have its train depot at the Valenzuela station. DOTR Secretary Arthur Togades said the project is currently 46% complete and will be completed by the second quarter of 2024. He said this personal inspection of the construction site proves that the project continues to move forward despite the COVID-19 pandemic. The PNR Clark North 1 will cut across Manila, Caloocan, Valenzuela, and the municipalities of Maykawayan, Marilao, Bocaue, Balagtas, Giginto, and Malolos. Once completed, the rail service is expected to serve 300,000 passengers daily and will reduce travel time from Malolos to Tutuban and vice versa from 1 hour and 30 minutes to only 35 minutes. Up next, the DFA confirms that a Filipino is among the casualties in a mass shooting in California. And golf workers who have been affected by the pandemic get aid from the government. Back after a quick break. Stay with the PNA Newsroom. You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. The Presidential Task Force on Media Security assured it is not sleeping on the case of slain Dumaguete broadcast journalist Cornelio Rex Pepino. Presidential Communications Operations Office Undersecretary Joel Egco, Executive Director of the PT FOMS, reported on Thursday an update on the case of Pepino, who was shot dead on May 5, 2020. He noted that the biggest challenge in the case involves the witness. Egco said people might think it is already a closed case because the alleged murder weapon was recovered and the supposed gunman was also killed. He assured that they will dig deeper into the case. Police earlier reported on the recovery of the gun used in killing Pipino and the death of the alleged perpetrator Rodel Barillo. Pipino was killed while driving home after his evening radio program at Original Energy FM 93.7. He was the third media practitioner in Dumaguete City to be killed in recent years. Broadcast journalists Edmund Sesto and Dindo Generoso were shot dead in 2018 and in 2019, respectively. The Philippine Statistics Authority urged the government and private sector anew to honor and accept PhilIDs. PSA Undersecretary Dennis Mapa called on government agencies, financial institutions, and businesses to participate in the PhilSys implementation by honoring and accepting the PhilID as sufficient, valid proof of identity. Mapa noted that many Filipinos, especially the poor, face difficulty in accessing basic economic and social services for lack of valid IDs. He said the PhilID will make it easier for Filipinos to engage in transactions and access basic services. At least 40,000 PhilID cards have been delivered so far to registrants who completed Steps 1 and Step 2 registration. In our news overseas, a Filipino-American was reported to be one of the fatalities in the mass shooting at a rail yard in San Jose, California. The Department of Foreign Affairs said the Philippine Consulate General in San Francisco is now coordinating with authorities to get more information and extend assistance. The victim of Filipino descent was Paul de la Cruz Mejia. Local reports identified the shooter as Samuel Cassidy, a maintenance worker at the Valley Transport Authority and the co-worker of the victims. On Wednesday morning, local time, Cassidy opened fire at the VTA light rail yard, which also wounded one person. Authorities confirmed that the lone shooter committed suicide after the shooting rampage. Over 1,000 employees in 5 major golf clubs in Metro Manila have received payouts close to 7 million pesos under the government's cash assistance program for tourism workers displaced by the COVID-19 pandemic. The cash aid distributed by the Department of Tourism and Department of Labor and Employment is part of the second tranche of the Bayanihan 2 Act. A total of 3.1 billion pesos was allocated to displaced workers, including those in the informal sector of the tourism industry under Bayanihan 2. Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat on Thursday led the virtual ceremonial awarding of the certificates of the DOT Dole Cash Assistance Program. Unlike other tourism destinations, golf courses have been operating in full swing in areas under the general community quarantine such as Metro Manila, provided that they are compliant with health and safety protocols. As of May 18, about 35,000 tourism workers have received cash aid amounting to 176 million pesos. 5 cities in Mindanao have qualified for this year's One Planet City Challenge, an environmental initiative organized by the Worldwide Fund for Nature, or WWF. In an announcement on Thursday, WWF said these selected cities are Cagayan de Oro City, Davao, Dipolog, Tagum, and Zamboanga. Also joining the challenge for the first time are Baguio, Legazpi, Ormoc, San Fernando in La Union, and Vigan. WWF Philippines One Planet Cities project manager Aimee Belen said the addition of 5 Philippine cities to the OPCC roster is a welcome sign of a more sustainable future. The OPCC celebrates measures taken by cities across the globe toward combating climate change and reducing their carbon footprint. Almost 600 cities from 53 countries have participated in the OPCC over the past 10 years. Last year, Batangas City was hailed as the country's winner for the Philippines. Santa Rosa was the country winner in 2016, while Pasig City took the top spot in 2018. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. The government simplifies the list of workers included in the A4 vaccination priority group. OFWs who are living within 4 months after their vaccination and their families are also moving up to the A1 inoculation list. Not lagging behind, the Philippines is among 4 countries cited by a report of the International Budget Partnership as having an adequate level of accountability in its early response to the pandemic. No halt to key projects amid COVID-19. The Malolos-Valenzuela route of the Philippine National Railways is set to open in December. And a hope of a new life begins. We listen to the stories of the beneficiaries of the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program, which seeks to provide more opportunities for Filipinos in the countryside. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, check our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I'm Marita Muaje. Have a good day.